Okay. All right, here we go. Hello, Mudflutters. Thank you for tuning in today. If you're just joining me, my name is Baltimore Fats, and this is another installment of Mud City. All right. Let's hopefully that sounded good. I'm working on it. I gotta get that down. All right, so it's gonna try to be a quick one, as quick as possible today. Because there's a big story coming, and I tried to do it earlier, and it's so sprawling, and there were so many open windows, and it was really hard to keep track of, especially given that I try to be as spontaneous is the wrong word, but I try to, you know, keep it fresh and unrehearsed. If I spend too much time with it, it'll never get done because the story just will keep unfolding, and I'll never make videos. So, one bit at a time. If you've been watching my videos, you'll know that, when I started off doing my walk, what I thought would be the first video of my walk down Fort Avenue, and I started at Fort McHenry, doing my basic research about Fort McHenry, I came across the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, who helped build or refortify Fort McHenry back in 1798 and never left. So that has been sticking with me, and the connection with star forts and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and it made me start thinking about, the fact that, I stumbled upon the idea that maybe the Army Corps of Engineers is an organization that's responsible for digging us out from the mud flood. But I kind of, like I said, I kind of wanted to let that pass, and I've been talking about doing a presentation with maps, and so this is not that presentation, but I had come across this map, and something interesting struck me on it. The date is 1851, Baltimore, and this is that Locust Point area, Fort McHenry there, right? And I just want to point out, look at all of this that's here already when, 70 years earlier, there was nothing, And this story it gets crazier because, like I said, there are other maps. This is the one I'm starting with for this sort of episode, because this railway line is what got me when I started looking at this map, down to the ports here and across, and, you know, through the city of Baltimore on its edges, right? And they have and then there's the Mount Clair Depot, which is the B&O Railroad Museum today. But this was the first passenger car station. This is where they built the first massive railroad cars. The locomotive engines were built here. The first big ones. And so that struck me as like, okay, 1851. When did, because I was thinking about what would need to happen if, there was a mud flood and you were to find these old cities sort of buried in dirt and mud and earth. Well, you would need to dig them up, and you would need to do something with that dirt, and what could you do with it? How would you get rid of it, And seeing this, I don't know, it just clicked in me. Well, you're shoveling all the dirt up, you're doing whatever it is you're doing with it, you're rolling it right down to the Patapsco River here, whatever this is, part of the Chesapeake Bay, and, out to the ocean with it. You dump it in the bay, or you bring it in the railroad cars out west, and you use that earth to, do landscaping out there for whatever purposes. But you need to get rid of the mud. So how do you do that? And this is 1851, so it definitely falls in that, timeline for what's, the conventional wisdom of when the mud flood happened would have been before this, right? And, so that struck me as interesting. So I thought, let's take a quick look at the Baltimore Railroad. So this is the I want to start here. Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. I'm not going to get too deep because this is going to go into that other much longer presentation that I'm working on that I'm sure will have to be in multiple parts, the information is kind of sprawling, and it was too much for me to try to maintain in a single presentation, with all the open windows, and it was nuts. So just quick hit information on it. It's the oldest railroad in the United States. Its first section opening in 1830, and I was like, okay, now we're talking 1830, first section opening. When we think that mud flood, conventional wisdom, late 1700s, early 1800s. All right, and let's see. Does it say anything quick about? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna get into this stuff in my other one, but so I said, okay, 1830. I'm gonna walk up to the B&O Rim. I used to live right underneath it, and I'll show you where I lived in the slideshow I'm gonna do. You can actually even see it in this picture, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think the house I used to live in is right in here. So I wanted to take a walk up there, and I'm just going to start with this, right? This is what it looked like in 1971, right? I'm going to highlight this area here. So I decided I'd go up, and let's look for evidence of mud flood around the Montclair, the B&O Railroad Museum in Montclair, which they say, had its opening, its first opening. Hey, I got a new subscriber. Thanks, guy. Who are you? David Snow. Thanks, David. So that threw me off. I wanted to show any mud flood evidence. They say this opened in 1830, right? So let's go to Google Earth, right? This is what it is today, and here's the roundhouse where the railroad cars were maintained, and this is the shop where they were built and also repaired and stuff. And so here we go. I'm gonna come up. I'm going to start my slideshow here. Okay. So this is where, this was Thanksgiving morning after being dejected, after going to the building, the L. Gordon building, and there being workers there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I was itching. I wanted to do something. And I was looking at those maps and coming up with this idea for the railroad and the removal of the mud. And I said, let's walk up there, right? Me and my accomplice, the intrepid Mr. X. So this is where we walk up, right? I still live in the neighborhood. This is where I lived first time in my first house in Baltimore. We live down here anywhere. I'm not going to show you where I live now, but so anyway, we walked up this hill, and you come up. It's a hill, right? You have to walk up, and this is where we came in, and there's the museum. And this is on top of a hill. This is leveled off, but this is the top of a hill. And so there's the museum. And I said, what? Let's walk down the first mile. It was cold. It was closed. The museum was closed, so we couldn't get in. And there's a cool ruin down the first mile. And this is the first mile of railroad track. They say that was ever laid in, for passenger use in the U.S. Right? So we're walking down, and I noticed this fortification over this trestle here. So clearly they dug this out and, had built this trestle in 1830 or whatever. And here's that ruin, and let's see if we can get up over it. Here it is. We're walking down. From the railroad, I didn't really notice this here. I'm going to check that out further. I'm going to go up and look and see what that is. So here it is. I was hoping that this would be a mud flood thing. A mud flood type building. I don't know that it is, but it's definitely really cool looking, especially from above. And they definitely were working. It was a manufacturing plant of some form, maybe trains. All right, and I'm going to show you that train in a second. So we continued to walk down, and we got to here, and this is fenced off, right? This is private, and this is what they do. I don't know what they do in there, restore old trains or whatever. And so they had a really cool train in the yard, and I'd never seen like an engine car like this before, and I thought it was really cool, so I had to take a bunch of pictures of it. at the front of this thing, you know, and these weird antenna on top, which, brings to mind maybe this was electric cable car, but I've never seen an electric cable car that has a front engine like this, like a locomotive engine like this, right? So I was thinking, well, maybe it's free energy antenna, this is a device that drew in, atmospheric energy to power this train. I don't know. It's all speculation, and everything coming is 100% speculation, but it's compelling. There's some interesting things coming up regarding the railroad and the history of the U.S. and mud flood. There's a close-up of the antenna. These are iron beams that are in the track, which I thought were an interesting little detail, and I don't know if I'll get to it in the longer presentation, but they mention these iron tracks. So we're walking back. As we're walking back and getting closer, I noticed it has a portal at the top, much like the churches do, the cathedrals, and I thought that was an interesting connection. It made me think this building could be older than the mud flood and recovered, right away. And there were things that tipped me off before, especially having lived so close to it. There were oddball things about it that really drew my attention, but I never could really explain or reconcile with myself, but I also didn't think about it that much. I just thought it was kind of weird architectural features. So we're coming up, and I just wanted to show, this is level. We're level on a hill. This is high ground. It's level, and we're getting closer. I wanted to show, here's the corner of it, and now this is a hill that's carved down, right? And you can see this wall here, and this is all flat top, with the museum over here, and this is it from the bottom, and you can see how old that's old stone. So they dug this area out to create this road here, and this is a retaining wall for the earth that they needed to keep in place, right? It seems pretty basic. Here's that building. Look how it comes down to the ground on this level. And this is a solid 12, 15 feet, at least, so I just, I think I have other pictures getting close. Yeah, see? So here it's dug out. This must be some form of garage, or there's something under there, right? But you could see that it was, this was earth, and this is covered over, and it goes flush up to here, at least 15 feet off the ground. To me, this is a clear indication that this building was buried, and they dug out, at least two sides of it, because I'm going to get down that alley real quick. There's another view of it. And I wanted to show, this is that hill again. And there's a wall over here. There's a level parking lot. There must have been manufactured buildings there, warehouses or something. So I have a close-up, not quite a close-up, but here's like a detail of that wall. The wall stays high, but the sidewalk keeps sloping down, and it starts at a narrow point. To me, again, indication that that's dug out. This is that side that you can't really see too well from up here, the street, because there's this park, right? So you couldn't get a good picture of the top, and I wanted to get a good picture of the top. But here's that alley we're going to explore, and it goes up, and you can see, the windows start to go down to the sidewalk, and then they actually disappear in the second half at all. They just covered them, they bricked them up, maybe to, for that illusion of, no, these windows aren't getting buried under the sidewalk. You see this house has a step up, but that's not the biggest deal in the world. The little window I'm going to show you in a second is more indication of being mud flood. Here's a better view of the street going up. And this is a very narrow road and very tight corners. You can't bring big cars here. So this is across the street, and I wanted to point this house out because this is a really cool door and a sidewalk, and I got a good picture of it here. I like this as closed. But that's a pretty steep drop. They just dug this out. There's only like 4 steps or something like that, 4 or 5 steps, but it's pretty steep step. The door has some age to it, and I think this, is a clear indication of, maybe I don't have a good angle of it. from the side. Nope. You can see the slope around the corner. I had a different picture, but so I have to switch albums now. Because I used a camera for that first bit, and then I was really frustrated with the camera. I didn't like it. I mused about getting a camera for Christmas in a video, and I decided that, Baltimore Fats is more suited for guerrilla photography. So this is that little window of that red house. You can see it's dug out, and they had to Um, so now we're going up the alley again. Oop, there's the intrepid Mr. X making an appearance. He'll be glad to know he's in one. So you see, this goes up a hill. The windows kind of start to get lost in this slope, right? And you can see features here. They filled in doors and knocked out windows. But what I wanted, so we're going up. You can see that after a while they just stop. Either the windows stop there. This is, or they brick them up. Here is, I wanted to feature this house. You could see, the windows disappearing, but they dug out this back for this back door and this little porch area here. Clear as day. Look at that. So this whole neighborhood is definitely show sign. Look, I want to show on the opposite side of that portal from the train tracks that we were walking down, they have another one, which I thought was really interesting. And I'd like to get more into that. Here's a great sloping angle down. You can see, if you were to follow this straight line across, it was going to come into the sidewalk. This, there it is right there. This is the house across the street. Look how high that door is. These stairs have to go down, covering these windows. Yeah, that makes sense. They had to dig this hole. They dug this out when they dug out the rest of it. But when did they do that? That's the thing, And so here we have doors under doors. A bunch of pictures of this going around. I wanted to show this detail here, and I'll show the house on the on Google Earth. But I wanted to bring you up on this. I noticed this, and I wish I got up closer so I could get a better close-up, but this is falling apart. And look at how the old brick underneath. And so I'm thinking this is a refurbishment done, when they say all these buildings were built in the 1870s or whatever, whenever this mass construction was going on in this neighborhood. And this is the same neighborhood I talked about in my first visit, close to Lombard Street and Holland's Market. We're very close to that. And it's all going to tie in the coincidences and the dates and everything. It's getting crazy on me here. So, but I wanted to show how old that brick looked underneath. And I think this is the rehab. This is the stuff they built in the 1870s over whatever was there. And so let's see if I can. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to show you that house. So it's this one right here. This is the house I'm talking about, with that busted out window with the old brick behind it. So, moving right along. There's not too many. Like I said, I need this to be quick because I got. I don't need it to be quick, but I don't want to take too long with it because there's so much more coming. Look, doors over doors, doors under doors. Look at the way they dug this out, and this is very narrow. And look at you can tell the pitch of this. What degree angle is that? It's like a 45-degree angle. And it's very narrow. And my favorite one is coming up. This is no more than 18 inches wide. It's so narrow. It's crazy. So just to show that that block right around the B&O Railroad Museum, where the first line of railroad was done, or passenger railroad anyway, is definitely mudflood evidence. They show clear evidence of being dug out, to me anyway, and so I thought that was interesting. And so I started to go, okay, now it's time to dive deeper. And to start, you have to go out to Carroll Park, and there's a house out here. on the grounds. It's an interesting feature. See, I have to go try to find some of this stuff. Alright, I'm not clearly missing it. Yeah, Carroll Park over here. There's this house, which was built by a man named Charles Carroll. And starting with him, this story gets crazy. So I'm going to do a history of the railroad, and why I believe that the railroad was a key factor in digging us out, and that perhaps the mud flood took place much earlier than conventional wisdom has us. So that's a quick video here, a little tour, a little taste of what was around the B&O Railroad Museum and why it led me in the direction it's about to lead me in. Could be a couple of days before I get the next video up. It is a complicated story, and I do want to make sure I try to get it right. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any comments, please leave them. I would love to read them. And so until the next one, cheers, guys.